When you are at home and all alone and there is no one to phone, you might droop, then begin to snoop. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the CowHatLibrarian, and if this one sounds a little bit misjointed, it's because I thought my phone had started recording, talked through this entire book for about 20 minutes, and then had the sad realization that, in fact, my phone was not recording. So, once more, with feeling. I was excited about this one. If you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know that I've enjoyed Gordon Korman for years. Ever since my first time reading one of his books, it was Go Jump in the Pool, one of the Bruno and Boots books from the 80s. And I was excited to find out that he had written another one. And it is Snoop. As the story starts, Carter is a typical boy who loves his phone, gets kind of annoyed with his younger brother, and is out on a ski trip with his dad. His mom and dad, who were divorced, decided that a trip like this would be a good idea to get him away from his phone. So they're out on the slopes, and he's with his dad going down, and his dad's making sure that he's not on his phone. And then his dad asks him to keep an eye on his brother on the bunny slope, while he heads up to go do a double diamond run at the top of the mountain. Carter agrees, but instead of keeping an eye on his brother, he heads to the bottom of the hill and pulls out his phone from beneath his bulky parka and snow pants and starts watching videos. There was a new type of video meme trending, and he couldn't wait to see all the things people had come up with. And so he's watching through all sorts of videos when his brother comes down the hill out of control and slams into Carter below his knees, breaking both of his legs. Carter wakes up in the hospital, both legs in casts. And for the next few weeks, he's going to have to stay at home, use a wheelchair when he wants to get around, and do school remotely. And this is not so great. It's boring. Carter has to rely on his friend and Lacey, a girl he has a crush on, to bring him his homework assignments. And it's really hard to participate, and he's bored out of his mind when class isn't in session. And so he starts looking for things to do. He's not allowed to use his phone to watch videos online, and so he finds another source of amusement. His community has a few public cameras around that anyone can access from websites for the town. So he can see what's happening in the park, he can see what's happening from City Hall, and it's neat. But it's not quite enough for him, even though he is seeing some interesting stuff. He's seeing a pregnant woman who's regularly at the town park with her young son, and she has a heck of a time keeping up with him. He sees stuff happening downtown, a red car that parks downtown on a regular basis, and a man that never seems to do anything from there, and another man who walks by town and always has his eye on the stuff in the display window at this gallery that's known for having a crown in the window made with precious gems. And in the course of things, Carter starts accessing other cameras too. He finds out online that an awful lot of people have the default settings for their networks and cameras and firewalls, and soon he's accessing private cameras, like the one in the local ice cream shop, which he uses to spy on Lacey and Maddox. He'd heard that the two of them were going out, and he wanted confirmation. Now, he had a crush on Lacey, and Maddox is a member of the chairman of the board, a group of boys that commit really, really silly juvenile pranks, and that Carter is not impressed with. It might have something to do with the fact that he tried to become a member and failed miserably and was told he would never be a member. But they would do silly jokes like seeing a display of beautiful gems worth thousands of dollars, and they would have put a sign below them that said rocks. So, in the course of things, Carter sees some weird stuff that he's very, very concerned about. He's very worried about that man who continually looks by the gallery because he's convinced he's going to try to steal something from there. He also sees what he thinks are endangered animals around town. He thinks he sees a red panda. He thinks he sees a few other animals that really should not be in his town. And he ends up calling the police multiple times to make reports about things. And one of those calls ends up getting some other people caught in the crosshairs, because Lacey and Maddox were in the middle of playing a prank for the chairman of the board, where they put a sign saying the word hat in that display window right below the crown. And when the police headed in to check on things for that man that Carter was convinced was going to steal it, they caught Lacey and Maddox in the act. Now, they both hate Carter, their entire class hates Carter, and he's in trouble with his parents because the police come and talk to them. So he's even more limited in what he can do. Well, he's still curious about those animals though, because he's sure he saw something. And he ends up borrowing his mom's drone and flying it around to see more things about what's going on, because he's not technically breaking that rule about what he is and isn't allowed to look at videos through. And the story goes from there. In short, I like this. It's a winner. Korman stuck with one viewpoint character, which I think was a great decision. I've criticized him in the past for having too many viewpoint characters, 4, 5, 6 in some of his books in recent years, that I felt just ends up getting a bit confusing. And he seems to have pared it back with his last few books, and I think it was the right decision. It makes it very, very easy to stay with Carter and not worry about multiple sides of things. Now, as an added thing, even though Carter himself isn't especially likable, he is very relatable, for the simple fact that just about anyone reading this book, and anyone older who's reading it to other people, lived through the lockdowns from the pandemic. We've all been there. We know what it's like staying at home and feeling stuck there and not being able to go out and do things. We know what it's like trying to get school and education and work done through a computer screen, and how limiting it is and how isolating it is. So while Carter himself isn't necessarily someone we would all root for, because of that shared experience, we're put in his shoes, and it makes everything he's doing feel much more believable and much more justifiable, even if in a different book we might not be fans of his invasions of privacy. So that was all to the good. I like the overall idea, because again, when you're stuck there looking for new sources of entertainment, what's happening outside your window is sometimes pretty fascinating. The old apartment my wife and I lived in, we'd go sit out on our balcony and see what was happening in our neighborhood. We'd see the couple that was fighting their way down the street and sort of shoved a bicycle into the bush when they were mad at each other. And we sat down and took our coffee outside and watched when a house across the street was being torn down. And that was just with our own eyes in our neighborhood. I understand the appeal for Carter of seeing what's going on when you're trapped with nothing to do. With that said, it's not perfect. There are spoilers ahead because I need to talk about the deal breakers. So later in the story, Carter uses his mom's drone to get other footage around town, to go figure out where the endangered animals are, to see what else is going on in the community. And while I accept that he could probably fly the drone, the battery life on this thing is ridiculously good. Most of the stuff I've seen on drones, and admittedly I don't have one, I haven't flown one, but the ones I've seen videos on, the battery life isn't that extended. But it seems like the battery life on his mom's drone is really long, like a half hour of flight time and recording and broadcasting wirelessly. And that seems pretty darn good compared to the stuff I've seen where flight time is measured in minutes before a battery change is required. Now, maybe this is a super high-end commercial drone. Admittedly, his mom is a photographer and uses it for her business, and maybe it is a higher end one. It seems awfully convenient that he has access to a drone that happens to have enough battery range to fly it across town, where he's not sure of the landmarks from above, and to see what's happening around the abandoned building where he saw the endangered animals, and have a low battery warning and still be able to fly it halfway across town to get back to his house. And it seemed like a little much to me. Maybe I'm out of touch with what drone battery life is like these days, but it seemed pretty optimistic. Another deal breaker is the whole endangered animal plotline. As it turns out, there were people storing these endangered animals in this abandoned building for some unknown purpose. And while I suppose it's possible, the types of animals that Carter saw weren't ones known for their products. They weren't elephants known for people poaching them for their tusks, or rhinos for their horns, or tigers for traditional Eastern medicines made of certain body parts. It wasn't anything like that. It was a sloth and a red panda and other animals, and I didn't see what the market value for those animals was. Without a known valuable product obtainable by poaching them, how much money would these people be making just stealing these animals from somewhere and just reselling them as live animals? I don't understand where they were going to make the money from. It felt like a bad supervillain plot, to be honest. And my other nitpick is that Carter decides he's going to build himself up to be really, really good at using his wheelchair, and so he practices and he does good, and late in the book he uses his newly developed wheelchair skills to cruise across town at a really high speed to rescue some of his classmates from one of the wild animals that he saw while flying his mom's drone. The couple weeks he was in that wheelchair, even if he was reasonably diligent, I don't believe it was enough time for him to get that good and that fast to get that far across town to save them in the time he had. It was another thing where you just have to suspend belief in order to keep the story going. So that was a little off too. I think it would have been more effective if this was happening literally a block or two from his house, and it would be much more reasonable. He sees something on the drone, he panics, he's out the door in his wheelchair, and he's there in a minute, rather than quite a bit longer. Still, like, I am nitpicking here, and for an average reader, they'll probably not pay attention to these things the way I have. They did pull me out of the story a little bit. Still, I liked it, I recommend it, go borrow it from your public library. While I'm on that topic, if you use and appreciate the services offered by your public library, why not take just 1 minute and tell the powers that be exactly that? Tell your mayor, tell your council member, tell your MP or MLA that you use and appreciate the services offered by your public library. We're at a time where some public libraries are having trouble finding sustainable funding to continue improving the materials, programs, and services they offer. And a few good words in the right ears might make a world of difference. And if by some chance you're a library staff member, don't forget, watching my videos counts as professional development time. With that, thanks for snooping on me talking about Snoop. By all means, please like, please subscribe, and please check back and see what else I have to talk about from the CowHat Library. Thank you. Bye now.